The Quinnipiac women's basketball team has made history again. Who will be drafted on the Breakdown fantasy hockey teams? And the women's ice hockey team travels to Brown and Yale this weekend. Our guys will give you a preview, all this and more, coming up on Bobcat Breakdown. It is 9:30 Eastern Time, and you know what that means. We are back live in Studio 125. My name is Emma Carmen, and I am joined alongside Tom Krasnowski and Jonathan Banks. Gentlemen, how are we tonight? Ready to talk about some basketball and hockey?
Emma, we're doing great tonight. Thanks for having us on the show. I'm ready to talk some sports with my good friend Tom Krasnowski.
Yeah, no, always a pleasure to be on the desk, especially with Jonathan Banks here, one of the best around. It's going to be a lot of fun.
No problem. The Quinnipiac women's basketball team made more memories this weekend, but this time it was for head coach Trisha Fabry. She won her 400th game as the Quinnipiac women's basketball head coach. Tom, we will start with you on this one. What is her legacy after achieving this recent accomplishment?
It's got to be right up there among the best in Quinnipiac club history, honestly. She's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. You're looking at Rand Pecknold's one of the guys on top of this list. Bert Kahn, another guy on the top of the list. He coached here for 30 years, got over 450 wins, and there's a rec center named after him. But Trisha Fabry's definitely on that short list of great coaches at Quinnipiac. She has got the tenure, 23 years. She's got the record now with 400 wins. And she's got the rags to riches story because this Quinnipiac women's basketball team wasn't really well known. And she got them into a top-tier program. They've gotten 20 wins the last 7 years. And they're the perennial favorites in the MAC. So Trisha Fabry really, she's made strides with this team, and she's on the short list of some of the best coaches at Quinnipiac.
Yeah, Tom, you really hit the nail on the head there. Let me just give you some quick stats about Trisha Fabry. It took her 6 years to get a winning record at Quinnipiac. She started off her career 33-98, but she has led her team to records such as 31-4, 30-3, 29-7, so on and so forth. They're 21-5 this year. And if all goes right, Quinnipiac will be in their 4th NCAA tournament in 6 seasons, which is no easy feat. Let's just take it to Gino Auriemma, who has been at UConn for 33 years, the women's basketball coach. He's been basically the best coach in almost all of college sports. And this is what he said about the Quinnipiac women's basketball vision, inspired by Trisha Fabry. They view themselves as one of the top schools in the country, as they should. Hockey is a perfect example of what they can do. They have amazing facilities they're built to last, and the exposure they got last year was invaluable. So that's one of the best in the business, talking about how much Trisha Fabry means to this program.
Yeah, I like how you talked about the exposure, because with good coaching comes good recruitments, and that all comes with exposure too. And as Quinnipiac's winning more, they're getting more exposure, and you could argue right now they could be the second best women's program in all of Connecticut right now.
Yeah.
We're coming for you, UConn. Trisha Fabry leading the way for the Bobcats.
Yeah, and think about all these Power 5 schools putting money into their different programs. Quinnipiac finished 23 last year, so that's no small feat.
Is the women's basketball team really that good in your guys' opinions, or do you think that the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference is that bad? Jonathan, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, to be quite honest with you, Emma, I think it's a combination of both. They lost key players Sarah Schoen and Vanessa Udoji. They do have a 16-game winning streak. Their last loss was Michigan State on December 18th. And they received a vote in the top 25 poll this week. So that shows how good of a team they are. But it also shows how weak the MAC is. If they won 16 straight games and they didn't get a vote in the top 25 until this week. So that's 15 straight conference wins in a row. And just took them this week. And Marist is 12-2. But other than that, Siena is the closest to Quinnipiac. And they're 6.5 games back, so I think it's a combination of them being really good and their conference having one of their weaker seasons in recent years.
I agree. It's the best of both worlds for Quinnipiac as far as they're concerned. They've got over 90 wins in the MAC since joining in 2013. It's a testament to their dominance and the weakness of the MAC. And you'd like to think about who can stand up to them, right? Who's going to stop them? So there's Marist. They have a rich history in this conference. They've got 10 championships. Siena gave them a little bit of a tough time last week. We'll get into that later. But Quinnipiac, they've really got it all on this team. They've got some star power with McClure, Jen Fay. They've got three-point shooters up and down the roster. And players like Taylor Hurd, Paula Stradmain, they're stepping up, like you said, with the loss of these other players, the injuries. And, where would Quinnipiac move, hypothetically, if the MAC is too easy for them? Would they go to the A-10? Would they go to the Big East? I don't know. I think it's too tough for them at this point. I think they're in the right spot.
Yeah, I think the A-10 would be the conference to move if they were going to move, but that's a huge debate for another day.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you mentioned the Siena game, but does that game concern either one of you? Let's also not forget that the Bobcats played the Marist Red Foxes this weekend coming up, and they had a close game earlier this season. Tom, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, I'd argue this is a good thing, that they faced a little bit of adversity going into the playoff season. Because many a time in sports history, we've seen teams that cruise into the playoffs, they haven't had a tough game in a while, and then what happens? They get upset in round 1 or round 2.
Yeah.
And with Quinnipiac now, they had a little bit of a tough time with Siena. They still found a way to win, though, and it brought the best out of them. They scored 83 points, which was their second highest point total of the season. They got production from their whole team up and down the roster, and they still found a way to win. So with some good big games coming up here with Marist, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and this game, it doesn't concern me at all. They got 23 points from their bench. Last game against Siena, Siena got 9 points. They got 21 bench points against Canisius when they won by 25. Then think about that blowout win against Iona when they won 90-47. They got 27 bench points. That was 19 in the fourth quarter. So that just shows the Quinnipiac bench is there to play. They're still winning games by double digits. We're like panicking here when they won by double digits, and they keep on winning. Even the best teams have their slip-ups, and this wasn't even a slip-up. They won by double digits. And
16 in a row.
yeah, we don't need to panic just because they didn't win by 30. Let's be honest.
The Quinnipiac men's basketball team had a tough weekend on the road after being defeated by Niagara 95-76 and by Canisius 71-64. Both of these games were MAC games, which puts the Bobcats at 6-8 in the conference. Now we go live out to the Piazza as Q30's own Dylan Fearon is live with freshman forward Jacob Brigoni. Dylan, take it away.
Thanks, Emma. Jacob, it's not every day a basketball player from Australia comes to Hamden. Take us through the recruiting process. What was that like for you?
So some of my national team coaches back home in Australia had some connections to Coach Dunleavy here, and I think at the time I was looking for a college to come to, and he opened up with the new position here, and we got in touch, a few phone calls. He reached out to me and he offered me the scholarship, and then an opportunity to visit here, and Mum and I came, and we loved the place. We had a great time, and the relationship is the big thing that stood out to us, and just being comfortable here, and we haven't looked back.
That comfortability is really shown because you've had so much success early on. You're starting, you're playing a lot of minutes, you're second in the conference in three-point shooting. It's come as a surprise to some, but has it come as a surprise to you?
I think we all work hard, and I think I'm very thankful for the opportunity our coaches have given us and the belief my teammates have in me to go out and play and be confident in myself. And we don't really look at individual stuff as a group. We're just trying to get better each day, and I think it's been a fun process, and we got 2 good weeks here to keep getting better and see where it takes us.
We talked earlier about the differences between basketball over in Australia and over here, including shot clock, three-point line, substitutions. Take us through that. What are some of the bigger differences from over here?
I think it's a very fast-paced game here. There's big, strong guys, athletic and longer, so there's more challenges. I think the three-point shots helped me be able to open up my game a little bit more and be aggressive, and it's just been a big learning curve this year, and I'm embracing it and looking forward to the challenges.
You talked about the shot clock being 24 seconds over in Australia when we talked earlier, as opposed to being 30 in college. How has that helped you as opposed to other high school players coming in have not played with the shot clock?
Yeah, I think it's helped a lot. I think there's perceived pressure when there's a clock ticking down, and just playing under situations where some people will panic, and just having that experience I think's helped with decision making and just being comfortable in the games. Back to the three-point shooting. It's been clearly your biggest attribute. Did you know that coming in? Did you know that you'd have to make shots to stay in the game and that would be your biggest contribution to the team? Coach told me being able to shoot the ball really well will help open up and allow me to show the rest of my game, and he's been spot on with that, and just keep working out and getting in the gym, and yeah. Real quick, there have been a lot of decent players in the NBA today from Australia, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, but you told me earlier your best player is someone else that maybe people don't even know about. Who is that? Matthew Dellavedova. Just the way he comes out every night and competes, and he does everything he can he gets his body right, watches film, and just the way he prepares for the game. He's maybe undersized and not the most athletic guy on the court, but just his mentality every night and how hard he works, it's pretty incredible. Great, thanks a lot. Stay healthy, good luck, and we'll see you Thursday against Manhattan. Thanks for having me. Emma, back to you.
Thanks, Dylan, so much. When we come back, we will have a Quinnipiac men's ice hockey fantasy draft and discuss the odds of a playoff home series game. We have our game of the week along with our final roars. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired and frankly a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. QCash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
This is Sports Pause.
Are you concerned with the 0-2 start for this team?
Right here, top of the circle, again, rips it past the grassroots goalie.
What will breaking the record mean for the program himself? I mean, 138 wins.
There's the tough shot. What a nice play by Mikey Dixon.
He's good in transition. Just a really dynamic scorer he can create for himself.
And now, Emma, it's time for the top 5 plays of the week.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Didn't that commercial break go by fast? This past weekend, the Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team lost at Yale 3-2 and defeated Brown 3-0. Tom, what do you think about the impact of the new guys that are slotting in the lineup?
Well, yeah, I think we should be talking about the new guys slotting in because everybody wants to talk about the guys who have been removed from the team in recent years. We had Thomas Aldworth, Logan Mick, and even last year, Andrew Tavener. But let's talk about the new guys that have gone in. Joe O'Connor came in. He's a defenseman. He scored his first career goal. He's a Hamden native, so that's a good story there. We've got others like Matt Creamer, TJ Brown. Look, we don't know much about these guys. But what we do know is that they're hungry because they're sitting on the bench all year. And as freshmen, they're looking to make an impact even down the line in the future. So, these guys might be able to add something to the bottom six, to the depth of this team that the other guys just weren't able to do.
Yeah, and that's a good point about Joe O'Connor. He won back-to-back championships in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. So I mean, he has that championship pedigree and that experience. So that could help the Bobcats down the stretch. It really could. And another thing about Matt Creamer, obviously he doesn't have a goal in his 2 appearances, but he has 19 goals and 17 assists in the British Columbia Hockey League for the Nanaimo Clippers in the BCHL, so he knows how to put the puck in the back of the net.
Yeah, obviously. If you get recruited, by Quinnipiac, as one of the top programs in the nation, you're going to have some skills. So it just matters, seeing if these guys can translate it into the NCAA game, and they should be able to. It's about getting a spark, getting a change of culture.
Absolutely.
All right, now it is time for the fantasy draft with Jonathan and Tom. With that being said, you will have $12 to make up a team picking 1 forward, 1 defenseman, and 1 goalie. Let's take a look at the players' prices. Jonathan, we're going to start with you. Tell us who you choose for your forward.
So for my forward, I went with Alex Whalen, who's at the $3 price. And when you're a forward, the most important thing is goals. And Whalen is the leading goal scorer on the team. He started off the season with 4 goals in 5 games. He scored in 4 straight games against Arizona State twice. Then in other games against Princeton and Clarkson. He's not really getting the assist production out of him. He has 3 assists, but that's enough to get me by in that department. And Whelan has 145 shots this season. That's first on the team by 63 shots. That's 63. That's no joke, 63 shots. So that just shows that he's going to get the puck on goal and going to score. He's fourth on the team in points, and he's second on Quinnipiac in power play goals, and first place in power play goals is also on my lineup, and we'll talk about him a little later.
He's definitely a good bang for your buck, too. I went with Tanner McMaster, though, and so none of us went with Odin Tufto. And that's just because his price range is a little too pricey for me. It's $6 out of 12 total.
That's 50%.
I can't put 50% on one guy. I think of myself as a salary cap guru type of
Okay,
guy.
okay.
I don't know. I can't justify doing that. But McMaster's bang for his buck at $4. I talked about goal scoring with Whalen. Tanner McMaster's only 1 goal behind him, and he provides a lot of other things that Whalen can't. He's a center, which obviously, he can take some face-offs. He kills penalties. Let's throw out our associate producer Mike Riley's favorite stat, plus minus. Tanner McMaster leads the team in plus minus. He's a plus 13. And he's just shattering his career totals this year. Goals, assists, points. He's having a career year, and I want to reward him for that. He's a senior, he's going away, and he's going away with a bang. So Tanner McMaster, he's my first pick for forward.
He has a career year, but also fantasy hockey. We're not building a hockey team. We're trying to score the most goals and get the most points. So
he's only 1 goal behind him, and he's got more points.
Okay.
So I think he's a better forward.
McMaster had 8 goals and 11 assists last year. Do you really? And this year, obviously, he's got 12 goals and 15 assists. But do you think his production is really going to keep going the way it is?
I think he's centering the top line. He's next to Tufto. He's got Nick Germain or Matt Forchuk on the other side. And with Tufto, that's all you really need at this point.
Yeah.
Tufto's lighting it up. McMaster's a setup man, and he can pot some goals too.
Yeah, but also McMaster has 5 penalty minutes. My whole team combined has 5 penalty minutes, and that's also going to detract points from you in fantasy hockey.
The penalties for him are a problem, I'll be honest, but he plays
like
a complete...
against Yale.
Yes, he can play a complete game, though, and I like what he brings to the team. He plays hard, he plays well. He's the type of leader that I want on my team at this point to get things started.
I actually think Whalen's undervalued as well. I think him and
Whalen's definitely a good player. I just think that...
13 goals. He's the guy that puts the puck in the back of the net. He's the one that scored the overtime goal against Northeastern. He finds the net. He sniffs out the net when Quinnipiac needs a spark. He's the one that puts the puck in the back of the net. Yeah, McMaster makes these other plays, but those other plays don't show up in fantasy hockey, and they're not going to win me a match.
When he has more points than Whalen? If they're not showing up in fantasy hockey? He's got more points, he's got more goals?
You get more points for goals than assists.
He's only got 1 less goal.
That's why I got
just
a
about the
defenseman that
difference
can
is
do the assists
negligible
for me. We'll talk about that next, though.
All right, on to the defensive side of things. Tom, we'll start with you. Who did you pick as your defenseman?
Okay, so I went with Carlos Chuksta here because I know we're talking fantasy, but I like what Carlos Chuksta brings to the team on the ice. So he's a complete player. He's probably their most sound defensive defenseman. He's rarely out of position. His offense, though, it's a little underrated aspect of his game. I know he doesn't score a whole lot of goals, but when they get this highlight reel going, you're going to see he's got a snipe, and he doesn't use it much, but when he does, he can be a game changer with that shot. He's got more offensive game than one might think. He's just solid. He's an NHL draft pick, and you got to get one of those on your team, obviously. The Latvian sophomore, I like the way he plays the game. I'm really impressed with Carlos Chuksta, and he stays out of penalty trouble. He leads the team in blocked shots. He does a lot of the little things right, good intangibles. He's a defenseman I want on my team.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. And you talk about NHL players you want on your team. I got one, too. And my defenseman is Captain Chase Prisky. Chase Prisky's the most power play goals on the team in 5. I told you he was coming back to that. He's 3rd on the team in points as a defenseman. Even though Quinnipiac doesn't score well, that is very impressive. Rafferty and Brogan Rafferty and Carlos Chuksta are 2nd among D-men, and they're 9 points behind him. But my knock against Chuksta, he got an assist last game against Brown, right? Good for him. But other than that, he hadn't tallied a point in 9 straight games. You want your defenseman to score points in fantasy hockey. Prisky's had an assist in 4 straight games and 6 of his last 9. So that's a 6-point gap there, and your success is based on the little things in hockey.
Well, Quinnipiac doesn't have
fantasy hockey.
They don't have great scoring defensemen. They've got a great real hockey defense.
They have one in Chase Prisky.
Yeah, they've got Chase Prisky, and you took him off the draft before me. I can't control that. You took him off the draft board.
So then you're basically saying I got the better player by saying that.
I'll concede that you got the better offensive talent with him.
And that's what you need in fantasy hockey, better offensive talent.
But you got the first draft pick, so let's see about goalies.
All right, Jonathan, let's finish it off with your goalie.
And my goalie, I went with Keith Petruzzelli, the freshman draft pick of the Detroit Red Wings, and I had sound reasoning going behind that. I know he has 11 less games played than Shortridge, but he has 86 saves in his last 3 games, including 1 goal against Clarkson's dynamic sophomore line. Devin Brousseau, Sheldon Rempal, Nico Sturm have 85 points between all of them. Petruzzelli shut the door on them. He reacts well to plays. He's good on his angles. He's square to shooters, has a big frame at 6'5" and 180 pounds. He's tough to beat low. He's 19 years old. He will definitely improve. And I know Shortridge, he's given up 3 goals in 7 games this season, over 20 starts. That's not a good stat line. And there's a chance he's not fully trusted anymore, being the fact that there was a goalie controversy. He became the starter. He had the reins. And all of a sudden, now they're splitting games against Shortridge and Petruzzelli. So it's kind of up in the air what Ren Pecknell's going to do as the season progresses.
I still think that I keep going back to the fact that the games played just still aren't there for Petruzzelli. I know they are recently. But Shortridge has been the starter, and Rand Pecknold, he likes to ride with his guys that he has confidence in. I think Andrew Shortridge is the guy he goes with in the big games. He's got the experience, he's got the consistency. When he needs a win, he usually goes to Shortridge. And I know you mentioned that you said he had 3 goals in how many games? It's 7, you said?
Yeah.
But he also has 5 shutouts to Petruzzelli's none. So if we're talking fantasy points here, wins get me points, shutouts get me points, games played get me points. I don't know if Petruzzelli plays enough. When Shortridge does plays, he gets me those shutouts, he gets me those wins, and that's why I need to get fantasy points.
Okay, and you made a good point here quickly about this. Fantasy hockey, doesn't matter if you play big games or you play more games. All that matters is that you're playing games and you're getting points for your team, so it doesn't matter that Pecknold prefers Shortridge in bigger matchups.
You can't go wrong with either of these 2 netminders, though.
True.
Thanks, guys, for that. It should be interesting to see how these players fare over the next week. What do you both think when it comes to the Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team having a home playoff game? Do you guys think they have a chance?
Jonathan, I'll defer to you on this one first.
Okay, thank you. So based on the standings and the circumstances, yeah, it looks pretty high. Based on the numbers, that's the key. Like, there's a good chance because you have to get in the top 8. Right now, Quinnipiac is 9th. They're in a 3-way tie. 1 point above them is Yale, Princeton, and Dartmouth all tied up. While they have 17 points, Quinnipiac has 16, Colgate has 18, and Quinnipiac is Union, RPI, St. Lawrence, and Clarkson. I just don't know. It's close based on the numbers, but I don't know how this team's going to play.
Yeah, I think Quinnipiac can get it. They'll probably get that 8 seed, I think, because Dartmouth and Princeton have similar schedules to Quinnipiac, and that they have a couple of easy games left. Yale's got a lot of tough games left, though. They're playing some of the top 6 teams here. I think 4 of the top 6. So I'm not sure if Yale is going to be able to pull off those character wins, even though they have 4 this month. So I think Yale can end up being that 9 seed, and Quinnipiac's the 8. That would mean a first-round playoff matchup at the TD Bank Sports Center, Quinnipiac and Yale. Does it get better than that?
Battle of Whitney Ave. It would be something great to see.
When we come back, we are switching to the other team on the ice, which is the Quinnipiac women's ice hockey team. See how they fared this past weekend and how an injury to a key player could affect them.
Bobcat Breakdown presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network.
We are your source for debate.
Did they make the playoffs last year, Tom Jenkins?
When it clicks, it clicks.
We dissect Quinnipiac athletics on a scale you've never seen before.
With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit.
Plus, we're bringing the biggest names surrounding college sports.
We are live here at the Times Union Center with Jay Billis.
And of course, some comedy.
But you can only have so much arena food.
I think you're crazy.
Bobcat Breakdown, Tuesdays at 9:30.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
Now that's a sandwich.
The Quinnipiac women's ice hockey team had a recent injury on the team this past weekend in the Clarkson game. Abby Ives, the starting goaltender for the Bobcats, was pulled out of the game. Tom, we'll start with you. How far do you think this team can go if she sustained a serious injury?
Well, let's be fair. We don't know how serious this injury is. We don't really know any details right now. Media Day was postponed today, so we didn't get any answers. But Abby Ives has been a rock for this Quinnipiac team. She's done everything asked of her, and where do they go from here? So they'd have Allison Small, the freshman, being their starting netminder. And the numbers don't show it. Her lackluster record 1-3-0, she's inexperienced, but when I've seen Small play, she keeps them in the games. They lost one game, I believe it was 1-0 or 2-0 against University of New Hampshire. I think it was 2-1.
I think it was UNH.
Yeah, it was UNH against, it was 2-1. She played ridiculously well. They just couldn't score for her. It's stuff like that. And the Bobcats, they love playing close games. As long as they can increase their scoring a little bit, they can survive without Ives. I'm not sure how deep they'll go, but Small's a capable replacement.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like any sport. When you lose one of your better players, it's all about the other players stepping up.
You know all about that. You're an Eagles fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me started on that. But right now I'm going to focus on women's hockey. I mean, you basically said Allison Small. She has 1 win in 7 appearances. Other players didn't step up. But Abby Ives played in 28 games, 1.72 goals against average. So it really doesn't get much better than that in ECAC, and she's a rock for that team, and they're going to need her in the stretch run.
Now it's time for our game of the week. The Quinnipiac women's ice hockey team faces the Yale Bulldogs this Saturday afternoon at Ingalls Rink in New Haven. About 1 month ago, the Bobcats played the Bulldogs and lost 2-0. But do they bounce back and beat them? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Me personally, I'm taking Yale. They've had the Bobcats number all year. Other than that 2-0 when you reference, they also won 1-0. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. The New Orleans Saints did that to the Carolina Panthers 3 times in the NFL year, and I think Yale will do that this Saturday. I think Quinnipiac will score. They haven't scored on Yale all season, but I think Yale will have the last laugh on their Whitney Ave rivals.
Well, you said it yourself. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in a
they'll
season,
do it,
and
just
that's
like
why I don't see it happening.
Okay.
Yale is Quinnipiac's biggest rival, and you know they're not happy. Quinnipiac's not happy about losing those first 2 games, getting shut out. They're just simply not going to be swept by Yale. They're not going to let it happen. They played well against Clarkson, against St. Lawrence. They didn't get the wins, but they're facing 2 top 10 programs. They showed me something in that game, though. They're going to come out hungry. Cass Turner's squad's going to be amped. They'll win this one. They'll score some goals. They'll win this one emphatically. Let's say 3-1, 3-2, 4-2. Okay. They'll win it pretty well.
Yeah, I think Sam Skevy gets a goal, but Yale's lost 4 in a row. Coming into this weekend, I think that'll give them more incentive to want to beat their rivals.
Everyone's favorite time of the night has come, and that is the final roars. Tom, we'll start with you.
The chase is on. Chase Daniels, that is. The Quinnipiac senior notched his 1,000th career point on Saturday against Canisius. This season has been a roller coaster ride for Daniels. After not starting a couple of games in a row, Daniels was benched and then took a leave of absence from the team. With his status up in the air and Quinnipiac still in the lower third of the MAC, the season was at a crossroads. But since Daniels has come back, both he and the Bobcats have been rolling. The team now sits at 6th in the MAC, and Daniels has been his usual self, ferocious in the paint, scoring efficiently, and racking up the rebounds. He's the 13th Bobcat all-time to reach 1,000 points, and the first since 2015. Daniels has had an eventful tenure at Quinnipiac, but he was one of the best Bobcats in recent memory. The Bobcats can bank on Chase.
Look, I know it's the offseason, but I want to tie up my cleats and talk about Quinnipiac men's soccer forward Rashawn Daly. Jonathan Segal released an article in the New England Soccer Journal detailing the top 40 prospects with New England roots in Division I soccer. Daly was the first and only MAC player on the list, as he came in at number 17. The Bloomfield, Connecticut native led Quinnipiac in goals this past season, but had a bit of a frustrating campaign. Daly had 5 goals and 2 assists, but take away his hat-trick in November against St. Peter's towards the end of the year, and he tallied only 2 goals in 19 games. With that, he still made the All-MAC second team. Daly is a nightmare for defenders due to his electric pace and athleticism. If he improves his touch and becomes a better hold-up player, Daly could finally reach his potential in his senior season next fall.
Jessica Lee, a senior track and field runner, has set another school record yet again. This past weekend at Boston University, she set the record in the 60-meter race and was 100th shy of another personal best record in the 200-meter. Lee placed 2nd overall out of 27 competitors in this weekend's race. In the beginning of the winter season, Lee tied the 60-meter school record and continues to hope to break more. For the 2nd time this season, she has earned the MAC Indoor Track Athlete of the Week award. Last year, Jessica Lee was ECAC 60-meter hurdles champion and was the first Bobcat in school history to win the ECAC indoor title. Will she do it again? Thank you so much for tuning in on this week's episode of Bobcat Breakdown. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place. For more information, follow us on Twitter at QBSN and at Q30Sports. And check out all of our content at theqbsn.com and at Q30television.com. For Tom Krasnowski, Jonathan Banks, our production staff, and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Emma Carmen.
Wait, Emma, before you stop, I just wanted to talk about how great of a show this was. Tom, wouldn't you agree?
Honestly, this is a great show. I mean, we got a lot of stuff done here. We had some short notice. I know I had to fill in for injury substitution, if you will. But like you said, next man up. We got a little bit of a flu bug going around, but you know, next man up mentality. That's sports.
And I just want to talk about the little new segment we had about the men's ice hockey fantasy draft. I think that was cool, and I think if we implement that with other sports, it'll give us even more viewers.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think that was the best part of the show.
Yeah, I do too. It was a great show.
Have a good night.